The Green Bay Packers just absolutely dominated my Commanders. And I know the score was only 27-18, but it felt like it was way worse than that. This didn't even feel like it was a close matchup, and I genuinely felt like my Commanders were out of the game from the beginning. And this Packers team wins their second straight game, second game in 4 days because of Thursday night. I said for a long time that I think we need to abolish Thursday night football. We see far too many injuries, serious injuries, that occur as a result of Thursday night football. At the very end of the game, we saw Austin Ekeler go out with a non-contact injury to his Achilles. I'm hoping that that's not too serious because he will be very important to us later on the season. And we saw Jonathan Jones go out as well earlier in the game, and he got carted off as well. I'm not saying that that's all because this game was played on Thursday night, but maybe if they played it on a Sunday and players got a week rest, maybe these injuries don't happen. And Thursday night football is a huge stain on the NFL because a league that constantly preaches player safety is allowing their players to get injured on a short week and not care about it because they're getting a bag from Amazon. But you're talking about player safety constantly, and you added a 17th game and you wanted to add an 18th game. They don't care about that. They care about money and not getting sued by the league and by former players saying the NFL did not protect them enough. So miss me with that. But regardless, back onto the field, the Green Bay Packers do look like by far the best team in the NFL so far. And I know it's very early, and they're the only team, along with the Commanders, that have played 2 games so far. But the reason why they look like the best team is because they just beat 2 teams that were some of the best teams in the league last year. The Detroit Lions, who they beat, were 15-2 last year and the number 1 seed in the NFC, and they took them apart. The game was 27-13, but it was way worse than that as well. They had a garbage time touchdown at the very end, the Lions did, and Jared Goff got absolutely no time to throw the ball. The Packers' front 7 is relentless with Devontae Wyatt and Quay Walker and Rashawn Gary and obviously now Micah Parsons and Lucas Van Ness and so many players. All the quarterbacks feel like they're hurried all the time. Jared Goff was hurried almost every throw that he took. So was Jayden Daniels tonight. And that's really where they won this game. Most games are won through 2 things, I believe. Quarterback play and in the trenches. How well can you protect your quarterback and how well can you get to the other team's quarterback? And they got to Jayden Daniels on every single moment. They did not allow him to breathe. He was only 24 for 42. It felt like he had a throw on every single possession, especially towards the end, because they were just generating a ton of pressure and we were getting further and further behind. So if you look at the synopsis of this game, from the very beginning, I thought it was bad because Marshon Lattimore, the experienced cornerback that we brought into this team, was getting cooked. He was getting cooked all at the beginning of the game. The first 2 completions he allowed. It was his guy who he allowed, and then he drew a holding penalty. And luckily, we got saved by that because Packers went for it on the 4th down and eventually was swatted away by Amos, thankfully. But that was on Marshon Lattimore that drive got even that deep from the beginning. He looks like a disappointment so far, I can't even lie. Jayden Reed goes out within the first 4 minutes of the game. I forgot to mention him in my regards to injuries that happened because of Thursday night football. Hopefully he's okay because he is one of their great dangerous receivers and a really good deep threat. When he is there and Christian Watson is back as well, I think this team can be very dangerous for sure, along with Matthew Golden, who I didn't remember, along with Romeo Doubs. And Tucker Kraft was the player of the game. He was by far the best player in this game. 6 for $124 and a touchdown. Whew, Tucker Kraft fantasy owners are drooling right now because he played way better than I ever thought he was. And it's not just his catches, because he was able to find spots in the zone, soft spots in the zone, and, catch balls. Help Jordan Love out when he was in a dire situation, and maybe the Commanders were able to get some pressure, because they did sack Jordan Love, I believe, twice. But when they did get some pressure, he helped them out. Let me get open. Let me come back to the football, and let me help my quarterback out. And that's what he did, like I said, and he was rewarded with a touchdown as well. Tucker Kraft was the best offensive player on the field, no question about it. And he's not even the player that you think about when you think about great receiving threats for Jordan Love. And he was the best receiver and the best player on the offense, which is fantastic. Josh Jacobs also had 84 yards and a touchdown. So they did great. I mentioned Tucker Kraft. There was a 56 yards completion to Tucker Kraft at the very beginning of this game. And I thought to myself, that was a complete busted coverage. The line shifted one way and immediately it was just like boom, boom, boom. And Jordan Love scrambled on a 3rd and 9, and we were just basically done from there. So it was really bad stuff from the beginning from the Commanders, and then it just continued on. Heath made an incredible catch. I forget what Heath's last name is, but he made a catch that was originally ruled out of bounds, and then we saw the replay. It's like, oh my God, he got both feet in bounds. That's a catch, and it was a catch. And that's just what these Packers receivers are able to do. They're so young and so talented. It makes you worried for the future because their quarterback's only 26 right now, and all the receivers are young. And oh my goodness, there's so much that they can do over the next 5, 6, 7 years. I don't know how they're gonna pay them all. They might run into a Jamar Chase, T. Higgins situation where you just have to well overpay them and potentially have a bad defense, but you do have Micah Parsons for long term, and Rashawn Gary, and all the other guys that I mentioned. So you have probably the best problem that any NFL team could have, which is too much talent. I have too much talent. I don't know what to do with it. And yeah, a 92-yard touchdown drive in the second quarter. That was followed by a 94-yard touchdown drive at the beginning of the game. 2 90-yard touchdown drives. The Commanders' special teams did a great job of pinning the Packers down deep into their own territory to start their own drives, but it didn't matter. And they just kept chugging and chugging and chugging along. Jordan Love, I thought he played a very good game. He did have a few throws where maybe Matt LaFleur was just trying stuff and they went a little bit further, went a little bit deeper, and you're like, maybe you shouldn't launch it right then and there. So I thought it was less about Jordan Love and more about Matt LaFleur trying things that maybe he shouldn't and just put the game away early. I thought the same thing in the Detroit game. That's why these scores look a lot closer than the game actually was, because both games were blowouts, if you ask me. And look, one of the things I noticed is the Packers' corners are so technically sound. Let's not forget, the Packers got rid of one of the premier corners in all of football in Jaire Alexander, who did start to become a problem off the field. We remember he got suspended for some coin toss thing last year, which was annoying, but still one of the premier corners who also was probably the reason why the Ravens didn't get an opportunity to win the game on Sunday Night Football, if you remember that. He made the tackle where he really shouldn't have saved him. He should have just let him go. But got rid of Jaire Alexander and Eric Stokes, a first-round draft pick in 2022 during the Aaron Rodgers era when Aaron Rodgers was begging them to take a wide receiver in the first round. They drafted Eric Stokes. They got rid of both of those guys who were their starting quarterbacks for a while, and their defensive end looks even better. Their DBs look even better now after getting rid of both of them. And that just shows you the depth that they have. Their defensive coordinator, I can't pronounce his name, but everyone's been saying in the league that that guy might be a future head coach. And based on the way his defenses looked over the first 2 games, absolutely he should be a future NFL head coach. The defense looks fantastic. No quarterback can breathe. The receivers can't even garner that much separation. I mean, Noah Brown had basically a catch in this game, and they just popped it right out. Boom. Just so technically sound, and I love the way those guys ball out there. And yeah, and Dan Quinn said it at the end of the half. It's really the third downs that are killing us, and he's right. The Packers were able to get third downs. Jordan Love scrambled on a 3rd and 9. You know, we saw completions on 3rd down where they're not supposed to get that. And we were getting killed on 3rd downs. I mean, our first 2 drives lasted 6 yards. In the first quarter, 6 plays for 11 yards. That's all that we were able to get because the Packers absolutely dominated the Commanders in the trenches. And that's where they won this game, in the trenches. We move on to the third quarter. The Commanders did get a really good start. Debo returns a kick for 50 yards and does really good there. But then another sack by Micah. Micah Parsons shows his impact on the game again. He is clearly coming out with a vengeance because he feels like not the Mavericks either. Oh my goodness, I'm getting all my Dallas teams mixed up because another Dallas team messed up and getting rid of a franchise talent. But the Cowboys wronged him, and it seems like he's getting revenge. There was even a quote that brought up that said, nothing more motivating than feeling like a team that you gave everything to doesn't believe in you and doesn't feel the same way about you as you do to them. Nothing more motivating than that. And he's come out to ball in these first 2 weeks, and he hasn't even been fully healthy and hasn't even been fully involved in the plays as much as the Packers would like. I think he played about 50% of the snaps in the game against the Lions. And this game, he looks like he played a little bit more, but clearly not all of the snaps he's going to play later on this season, hopefully the postseason. But sacked by Micah Parsons. Matt Gay missed 2 field goals during this game. In the grand scheme of things, it probably didn't matter, but he missed a 52-yarder and a 58-yarder. I'm not going to kill him because they were both over 50 yards, but you would hope that you have a kicker that's able to make those, because he did make a 51-yarder early in the game as well. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. You know, the fact that your kicker is missing shots like that. I mean, many teams, I believe, have a kicker problem. Jake Moody missed 2 field goals for the 49ers on Sunday. So I think kicker problems can really mess your season up. And now you're in a huge rotation of kickers. You can't get Justin Tucker because of reasons. And there may be a bunch of other kickers out there like Anders Carlson. I was surprised that Anders Carlson got completely let go by the Packers, but he was missing too many kicks to just continue. And, you know, especially extra points and stuff like that, the Packers just couldn't keep him. And yeah, another 3-and-out by the Commanders in the third quarter. Once again, no time to throw by Jayden Daniels. And yeah, and by the way, through the first 3 quarters, Tucker Kraft had more total yards than the entire Commanders team. I think it was like 108 to 101. We had no time to throw. No time at all. And this brings me to our offensive line, because I feel like Laremy Tunsil, who is a big-name offensive lineman who has been the highest-paid offensive lineman for a while, him and his agent have been very smart in the way that they've negotiated deals that way. I've been pretty disappointed in him so far, not just for his protection on Jayden Daniels, but also just the penalties, couple of false starts where it's like you're too experienced to be able to do that. And that spot was usually where the Michael usually wasn't garnering on that side. He was going on the right tackle side. And I think our right tackle actually played left tackle for almost all of his college career. And now is thrust into right tackle. And that's usually where Micah would line up. But sometimes it would rotate. Micah would line up on the other side, Gary on the other side. And both of them seemed like they were getting exposed, but particularly Laremy Tunsil. That's the one I'm more disappointed in anyway. And yeah, the rest of the game felt like junk. Zach Ertz got a touchdown. Debo showed that he's still fast, by the way. So credit to that, because many people were saying he gained a bunch of weight during the offseason, but Debo still looks explosive. So that's something to keep, an eye on, keep a hat on, that Debo still looks pretty good. But yeah, the Packers get another touchdown at the end of the game. The Commanders get one themselves. They get a 2-point conversion, and you're thinking maybe there's a little bit of something. The onside kick, because now you have to declare onside kicks, doesn't go their way, and the Packers recover that, and they have to punt it to us as well. We turned over on downs. Game is over. Packers win. And honestly, you felt like the game was over for a long time. That's why this isn't a frustrating loss in the same way that many other losses with this team have been frustrating over the years. But look, I didn't pick the Commanders to win this game, so I can't say that I'm that mad. And the problems that the Commanders showed in this game were the exact problems that I knew that they would have all along. Jayden Daniels, one of the first things I said about Jayden Daniels is that I love, his moxie, his poise, his confidence. He's always smiling, the relationship that he has with teammates, they all love him. But something that he worked on this offseason, he said he worked on it in the offseason, and we felt like it was very important for him to work on intermediate throws, the medium throws. It seems like he can make a lot of great deep ball throws to, Terry and to Noah Brown, hopefully, but just the 5-yard throws, the 8-yard throws, the 10-yard throws, because for quarterbacks, that's where a majority of your damage is going to be. Tom Brady won Super Bowls by being a quote-unquote game manager, which I think is the weirdest insult that you can give to a quarterback. Okay, I managed the game, but do we win the game? Okay, so why does it matter if I'm a game manager? Who cares? But 5-yard throws, 8-yard throws, 10-yard throws, and he did a lot of that in the Giants game, the intermediate throws. But you can't make too many intermediate throws if you have no time to throws. Maybe that's something on Cliff Kingsbury. Maybe we need to design stuff to allow him to get the ball out quicker. But one thing I've noticed is that with mobile quarterbacks, they usually don't get the ball out quick. Justin Fields doesn't get the ball out quick. Lamar doesn't get the ball out quick. Neither does Jayden Daniels or any of these mobile quarterbacks, because their legs are always a threat. So you want to give them more time so that third, fourth, fifth, second, they're like, okay, nothing's working. I'm just going to go down with my legs. But maybe treat Jayden Daniels a little bit more like a traditional pocket passer as opposed to a mobile Lamar Jackson type quarterback where you always want his legs to be an option. That's great, but what about if we try to get the ball out quicker, especially when you understand that the line is pressuring us all night, that front seven by the Packers is pressuring our offensive line all night, and we just can't protect. Maybe get an extra guy in there, have 6 guys, get out of scat protection, go with 6 guys. You have to bring in an extra blocker when your line is being destroyed like that. I wanted to see some variety from Cliff Kingsbury. I'm not out of him, obviously not, because we saw the magic that he did with Jaden Daniels in season 1. But regardless, for the Packers, they look Super Bowl bound. They really look Super Bowl bound. I didn't think that the Micah Parsons trade was everything that they needed to be Super Bowl bound. But find me a weakness on this team. Find me a sheer, hard weakness on this team. I can't find one. The only thing that could be a weakness, injuries, like what always happens in the league, and Jordan Love falling apart, which is always possible for a quarterback to fall apart. Those are the two things that could be huge, huge factors that derail their entire season. But I don't think either of those are going to happen. Hopefully injuries don't happen because you can never predict that. And Jordan Love looks like a much better quarterback now. Still has the confidence, still has the throwing motion, still has the powerful arms, still has the arm angles that he can throw at with an array of weapons. But now he just looks smarter. He looks more intelligent. Some shots that he maybe would go for in year 1 or year 1 starting anyway, he's not going for now in year 3. And the Packers look like an absolute force to be reckoned with. They look like the best team in the NFL. And besides the Eagles, because obviously you have to give it to the Eagles because they were by far the best team in the league last season, and they showed that in the playoffs by destroying everyone. This Packers team looks like they could do some serious damage in January, and we just have to wait out the rest of the season to see what else happens. But the Green Bay Packers, scary stuff. For the Washington Commanders, they have to rebuild and retool, but this just shows they're not on the Packers level yet. They're not on the Eagles level yet. Are they on the Lions level in the NFC because they beat the Lions last year and the Lions don't look as good? Are they on the Vikings level, the Rams level? That's obviously to be seen, but they're not on the Packers or Eagles level right now. And that's something that we just need to accept. But maybe we could see more as the season rolls on. Let's keep watching and let's see what happens on Sunday.